Alright, Travis Wayne Goodsell. For those of you who remember the olden days of magazines, there was a magazine called Cosmopolitan. And often on the covers, as we used to go through the grocery store before Utah banned them, you'd see titles such as 10 signs that your boyfriend no longer loves you. Crazy stuff like that. Purposely, it was a brainwashing technique by Cosmopolitan to conform women's minds into their thought process and to think and behave and act the way they wanted you to behave and act. And that was a danger way back in the day. Now we have, if you saw The Simpsons, analog programs for analytical companies and data programs. And we, of course, know the danger of that. If you're wondering, the 10 signs, there's only one, and it's you, women. When you change, when you start complaining about the guy, when you start nagging, when you start complaining, when you start ordering him around, bossing him, and intimidating him, he lost interest in you. You are no longer the woman he fell in love with and wanted to marry. That's the only sign, is you. Anyway, with America having been transformed into a monarchy, a dictatorship, authoritarianism, a fascist organization, government, it's all the same thing. People are now trying to figure out, okay, how didn't we see this coming? Well, they did see this coming. When Trump first took office, everybody was saying he's exactly like Hitler. And then, of course, the right-wing media said, how dare you? That's inappropriate to compare the two. Well, no, it's not now, is it? But sure enough, there were those who came up with 10 ways to identify if your president is a dictator. I got this from CNN, but the guy is Stephen M. Walt. He did this way back after Trump was confirmed in 2016. And so this was, he even says this is in no way indicative of what Trump will do to America. This is just, ways you can tell if your president is a dictator. And of course, CNN was saying, oh man, this guy knew. How could we get so fooled? Yeah, you guys weren't fooled. You were playing us. So, since I'm an LDS critic, we're not going to talk about Trump and how he compares to this. CNN already did it. What I am going to do is go over Utah government, which is controlled by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Mormons. And show you exactly what I have been complaining and warning about this whole time. I knew the danger to America because I live in Utah. I've seen the tyranny here in Utah, authoritarian status of a single church claiming that this is Zion. This is where the pure in heart are. And, yeah, if this is Zion, get me to hell as quick as I can. So, we'll go over the 10, which is interesting how it's 10, not 12, not 9, not some other number, but 10. And so it's similar to polls. Oh yeah, 57% say that they don't like this. How many people did you poll? How many people are actually in America? Small sampling fallacy? Ever heard of it? So anyway, number one, systematic efforts to intimidate the media. In Utah, are the media intimidated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the Utah government? Yeah, the church owns the news. So how dare they say anything bad or critical about the church? Immediately, Mormons who are in position throughout this state hammer down on anyone who dares speak out against the church. And so to actually obtain a clip, like the church, when they did their quid pro quo with Russia to get a temple, and got $32 billion in the quid pro quo. Thank God Fox posted that one video, and they don't post videos often. Not like ABC4 News Utah, which mostly posts advertisements about the vibrator for ED. Oh my God. And then, yeah, I'm not going down that road. So yes, the church intimidates the media. If you go back and watch the press conference when Nelson took over, pay close attention to the Salt Lake Tribune reporter. She's a critic of the church. She's covered a lot of investigative reporting that she was allowed to print. Notice Nelson's response to her. He intimidated her. He threatened her family. I know your family. Oh, are you planning on killing them now that you're president of the church? Unless I speak nicely about you? So yes, intimidation goes on here in the media. Against the media. Governor Herbert also intimidated the media in regards to the protesters for the homeless and for the port thing development and for other Operation Rio Grande. Governor Herbert laid down the law to the media. And so you always see the media cowering whenever there's an incident that occurs. You know, when a cop shoots somebody who's unarmed and mentally ill, the news says, oh, they're cooperating with police. Cooperating with police? Nobody should be cooperating with police. If they've committed a crime, you arrest them, you take them to trial. You present your evidence to the jury, and then the defendant gets to plead their case. No, the officers are confused. This is actually what was going on, and not guilty or guilty. But we don't do that here in Utah because of the intimidation factor against the media, who helps brainwash Utahns into the incorrect processes of the law. Did you know that? We're supposed to be following the Constitution. We're not supposed to be authoritarian. And the media plays a big role on exposing the corruption of the government. And if the government is being, or the media is being intimidated by the government, the people are doomed. Alright. Number 2, building an official pro-government media network. Deseret News, pro-church. Notice that they also don't criticize Trump. They'll criticize Obama, and oh, Nelly, will they criticize Obama, but they will not speak out against Trump. ABC4 News Utah, when talking about the impeachment, they'd only show a little clip, edited out, and that's it. And so the audience misses out on what was really going on with the full context. And so this is censorship that's involved here as well. Alright. 3. Politicizing the civil service, military, National Guard, or the domestic security agencies. If you've ever paid attention to ABC4 News Utah on YouTube, they do a segment every week about the police, politicizing the police. And you always see the news, oh, they're giving an award to this officer or this police chief, and so on and so forth. They're politicizing it. They're drawing attention to armed forces. You see that with the parades in Utah. Even the 24th of July parade, which is about Brigham Young fleeing the country of America to establish his kingdom in Mexico. And they have the police riding on their horses, riding on their motorcycles, doing their own things, impressing the people. Oh, yay! We love the police! And notice, the legislature also makes laws protecting the police. Utah has made it a third-degree felony to, defend yourself against a police officer. They've also made it a hate crime now if you defend yourself against a police officer. So these are politicizing the armed services, and Utah does that to a T. So 3 for 3 already. Wow. 4. Using government surveillance against domestic political opponents. Yes. Yes. In fact, even a Utah legislature last month proposed a bill saying, hey, we need a blacklist of all Democrats so that we can just, oh my God. And of course the press was clueless. They didn't mention that this was, a blacklist, but just unbelievable. And then the church, when the bishop was recorded with the interview of the father of a girl who went to her dad and said, the bishop asked me about this and that, and I was uncomfortable, and what is this, Daddy? So the dad, listen here, Bishop, don't you be talking to my daughter about this stuff. And had it recorded. And it went viral. And so the church then came out to the legislature and said, we don't want people recording on their digital phone devices unless there's an agreement on both parties. If you're familiar with church excommunications, no recording devices whatsoever. They're supposed to keep a record of it. Supposed to have the clerk keep a record of it. But then the church comes out with a change in their privacy policy for the Deseret News, plus all the cookies and stuff that are going on. But that's what it is. Cookies spy on and steal your browsing history and your hard drive information. Anything saved onto your computer is fair game, according to their new privacy policy, as they then sell that data to Russia. They, of course, don't say it's Russia. They say third parties. We all know it's Russia. And so that's the surveillance. They're keeping an eye on us. With Operation Rio Grande, what did they do before? They set up surveillance cameras in the streets to watch. So yes, they do surveillance. But not just to political opponents. It's anti-Mormons in the state of Utah. And so if you're a political opponent, you're an anti-Mormon also. So it's the same thing in Utah. That's why protesters are spied on. 5. Using state power to reward corporate backers and punish opponents. What does Gary Herbert do to drum up business in Utah? Does he encourage Utahns to get an education by offering free tuition, or have an education that allows for technological intelligence improvement? No. Instead, Governor Herbert bribes corporations from outside of Utah to come to Utah. And he says, it's bringing jobs to Utahns. Well, what's the problem with that? Well, he's not providing the education for Utahns, so that Utahns don't have the education for these high-tech, high-intelligence jobs. So Utahns don't qualify other than to be the janitor. And so what you end up doing is needing outside employees to move to Utah. What does that do to Utahns? Well, Senator Mike Lee proposed a bill that would allow states such as the state of Utah to hire outside employment, even from foreign countries. They're going to replace Utahns and exterminate. And so, yes, the bribery is rewarding corporate backers, paying them to come to Utah, and then offering tax breaks on top of that. That's rewarding corporate backers. And how it works in Utah. And so the mom and pop stores get punished. Alrighty. You do understand that the Olympics, the Winter Olympics, came to Utah because of the bribery scandal. Wouldn't have happened otherwise. And then President Hinckley wouldn't have been able to fulfill the Isaiah prophecy. They had to bribe and commit crime to get the Olympics here in order to fulfill prophecy. It had to be done. 6. Stacking the Supreme Court. In Utah, the whole courts, from the local, the state, and the federal in Utah, are all stacked with Mormons. The Mormon Church is protected in the courts of Utah. If you don't believe me, then you aren't familiar with my case. I technically won my case because the judge was in contempt of her own court. But because she was in contempt of her own court, I can't go anywhere. So yes, stacking the courts. That's what McConnell's been doing. Stacking the courts throughout the land. 7. Enforcing the law for only one side. Yeah. You cannot petition for a redress of grievances, the First Amendment right, against the church in Utah. Perfect example. They allow you to fill out the forms, but you don't get enforcement. I went and called local authorities. Hey, crimes are being committed against me. Crickets. Nothing but Mormon crickets. The law enforcement won't do anything. The prosecutorial bodies won't do anything. The judges won't do anything. The governors or mayors won't do anything except punish you if you dare to file a complaint. They punish you in retaliation. I'm a living witness. All Mormons in Utah know it. Even my neighbors know it. They call the West Valley City Police. Hey, we're watching suspicious activity, we're concerned, and an hour or so later, I don't see anything. Yeah, you're an hour late. Nobody trusts the cops here in West Valley for that very reason. The West Valley cops don't care to do their job. They protect themselves. They protect those in power. They don't give a damn about the regular citizens. Really rigging the system. So again, he's repeating stuff here, but and so that's how he's cheating this 10 list. But yeah, when you stack the courts, you're rigging the system. Utah is gerrymandered, for example. The majority of Utahns don't like the Republican system, but they've gerrymandered the districts here in Utah so that just the right amount of opposers going back to my Canadian days. They rigged the system here in Utah. They've been doing it long before the 2016 election, long before Operation Red Map. The whole system is rigged. And so, yeah, if you get punished or treated unfairly or criminalized as a victim, you don't get justice. You have to, bend over and take it, because they're not going to do anything for you. That's why the rape kits are piling up faster than they can process them. And they just started processing them in 2017. Brigham Young finally changed their policy not to punish the rape victim. Yes, they were punishing the rape victim. Kicking them out of the school. Sorry, gotta go. You violated our policy agreement. And so, yes, the system is rigged. Fear-mongering. Number 9. Yes, fear-mongering. The threats you get when you protest. Governor Herbert with the Port Authority protesters, they were protesting. They were trying to do it rightfully, but of course the government doesn't listen. They refuse to listen. You're protesters. You're supposed to be zoned far away from our ears. No, that's not how it works. And so when Governor Herbert got up and talked about the protest, he said they're domestic terrorists. That's fear-mongering. And Governor Herbert, Mormon boy, kills small animals, causing fear in the populace. That's part of the intimidation of the media, is fear-mongering. And so that's also another thing that they do, is beef up security. Hire more police, bring in more police for Operation Rio Grande. Oh, we don't have enough officers. They scattered like cockroaches. We got to go get them all. Throw them in prison. And so, yeah, police officers became one force. They're not separate forces anymore. Even though they are called West Valley City Police, Unified Police, they're all unified because of that fear-mongering that was put into the public. Oh, we have to do this for your protection and safety from these criminal, violent, horrible, homeless people. So, yeah. And then finally demonizing the opposition. And then you saw that fear-mongering. So, yeah, the guy can condense this. Propaganda, for example, would cover fear-mongering, intimidation, and demonizing the opposition. But yeah, you see it with the Mormon Church too. They demonize, literally demonize You're of the devil because you're criticizing the church. You're an apostate. You're an antichrist. You're evil. Demonizing. Literally, that's where it comes from. From religion. And the Mormons do it to a T. And so, he didn't seem to have anything there about changing laws to support the executive. I didn't see that in there. That's another thing that Utah does, is they make laws according to the Mormon altered doctrine. Because the doctrine is not the same as Joseph's. It's far from Joseph's doctrine. The Jesus of Joseph is no longer the Jesus of the Mormon church. It's a completely different Jesus. And if you don't understand what I mean by that, Jesus is the God that you create when you say that you can do such and such or you can't do such and such based upon your religious beliefs. You then are saying your God doesn't want you to do this or your God wants you to do that. And so you're creating your God when you do something like that. And the church that currently exists has created so many differences from Joseph's organization that it's not the same Jesus anymore. Even with Brigham Young, he instantly changed the word of wisdom, which was counsel, to a commandment. And now you have to say, I'm obeying the word of wisdom in your temple recommend interview in order to go through the rituals. And the thing is that they don't care about the physical exercise part of the word of wisdom. They only care about not drinking caffeine Mountain Dew and doing drugs, as long as it's unless it's by your medical doctor or psycho doctor. Those drugs are the only ones that are allowed. If you buy them from a street junkie, that's not allowed. There's a difference. And it has to do with legal. So there you go. I've demonstrated that, yes, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is authoritarian. That Utah is authoritarian. They are a dictatorship, they are a monarchy. And priesthood runs this state. So there you go. We're all doomed.